Hello, and welcome back to our reading of Act 2 of Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet. Just to kind of recap what we talked about in the last lesson, we saw at the start of Act 2, Romeo, Benvolio and Mercutio were leaving the Capulet party, and Romeo goes off by himself and hops over the Capulet wall into the Capulet property to try and find Juliet, because he says, how can I go on when my heart is still here, right? His heart being Juliet, and he's like, I can't leave without her. Well, he does end up finding her, and we are in the middle of scene 2, which is one of the most famous scenes of the play. It's called the balcony scene, because Romeo is down below in the Capulet orchard, and he sees Juliet in a balcony above. And he, right now, where we left off, is listening in the shadows, right? He's in hiding, and he's listening to what Juliet is saying. And what we heard her say where we left off with scene 2 yesterday, is she was saying, "Oh, Romeo, deny thy father and refuse thy name," right? She's asking him to not be a Montague, and she's wishing that either he were not a Montague or she were not a Capulet, so that they could freely express their love for one another. So that is where we left off. Okay, now at this part where we left off, Romeo was still hiding. He hadn't yet revealed to Juliet that he was there and he could hear her, so he was kind of spying on her in a sense. So where we're going to pick off is on line 52, and at this point in the scene, Romeo is now going to come out of hiding. So he feels a little bit weird about listening to Juliet in private, so he's going to show himself. Now remember the line that Juliet just said. She says, "Take all myself," and that's on line 151, right? And she's just speaking into the night. She doesn't think that anybody is listening to her. So she's saying, "Oh, Romeo, take me, right? I'm yours, you can have me." And Romeo thinks that this is a good point for him to jump out at her from the shadows. So he does so, and then they're speaking kind of face to face, right? She's still up in the balcony and he's still far down below, but at least they can see one another, and now they're talking to one another. So I want you to pay close attention to what they're talking about here. Juliet, of course, at first is going to be a little bit frightened because some stranger is popping out of the dark at her and talking to her. But then she starts asking Romeo some questions, so pay attention to what those questions are and how Romeo responds. I would like you to please pause me now and read from line 52 to 88 of Act 2, Scene 2. So here we had Romeo jumping out of the bushes on Juliet's line, "Take all myself," and he jumps out and says, "I take thee at thy word." He's like, I will take you, I will have you, right? So he's very excited because all of his feelings are being reciprocated by Juliet. And Juliet is of course very scared at first. She said, "What man art thou thus bescreened in night? Who is hiding in the night that so stumblest on my counsel?" And Romeo says, "I'm afraid to tell you my name because it is an enemy to thee," right? It's your enemy. And then she puts 2 and 2 together because, not to brag, but I am rather intelligent, right? "And I say, art thou not Romeo and a Montague?" So I have figured out who this shadow of a man is that's creeping on me in the night. And Romeo to that says, "Neither, fair maid, if either thee dislike." He's like, I won't be Romeo or a Montague if you dislike it, right? So he's basically saying, I will disown my name if you do not like it. Then Juliet asks, "Okay, well, how came you to be here? And the place death, considering who thou art, if any of my kinsmen find thee here." She's like, how did you come to be here? You know, if somebody finds you, if one of my relations finds you, you're going to die because they will kill you for breaking into our property. Well, Romeo, of course, being the suave, sophisticated man that he is, says on line 70, with love's light wings did I o'erperch these walls." He's like, love made me grow wings and I flew over the walls, right? He's very much poetic when it comes to love. "Therefore my kinsmen are no stop to me." He's saying, I do not fear your relations, I do not fear death as long as I can see thee. And he says, "Alack, there lies more peril in thine eyes than 20 of their swords. Look thou but sweet, and I am proof against their enmity." So this, he's talking about my eyes. He's saying, there is more hurt in your eyes if you were to look at me poorly than 20 of their swords. He's like, if you give me a scornful look, like saying, get away from me, it will hurt more than if I were pierced 20 times by different swords. And we go on to talk about a little bit of love and how Romeo was hiding and how he found the place. I ask on line 83, by whose direction foundst thou out this place? And Romeo says, by love, right? Love led me to you. So this is a lot of just preliminary discussion, kind of warming each other up for the more serious discussion that's going to come in the next few lines. So what I would like you to do is please pause me now and read to line 130. So in the next few lines, I'm suddenly starting to realize that Romeo was hiding and heard everything that I said that was supposed to be private, right? So I start to get very nervous here. I say, thou knowest the mask of night is on my face, else would a maiden blush bepaint my cheek. I'm saying it's a good thing that it's dark, otherwise you would see me blushing for that which thou hast heard me speak tonight. You're going to see me blushing for what you heard me just say when I thought you weren't around. Fain, would I dwell on this form, fain deny what I have spoke, but farewell compliment. So here I'm saying I should be harder to get, but since you already heard the innermost thoughts of my heart, screw it, right? I'm just going to tell you how I feel since I already did, and then I ask the very important question on line 94. Dost thou love me? So I just come right out and ask Romeo, do you love me? Since he already heard me expressing my love to him, I have nothing to lose, really, right? And I say on line 98, if thou dost love, pronounce it faithfully, or if thou thinkest I am too quickly won, I'll frown and be perverse and say thee nay. So I'm saying, if you do love me, tell me quickly, right? Tell me faithfully. But maybe you think I'm being too fast or I'm being too easy. So if you think I'm being too easily won, then I can play hard to get, right? That's what I'm saying. I'll frown and be perverse. Oh no, stay away, right? I can play hard to get if you think that I'm being too easily won, is what I'm saying here. And I continue to express some of my worries, right? In truth, fair Montague, I am too fond, and therefore thou mayst think my behaviour light. So I'm a little bit worried about how Romeo's going to perceive me from me so blatantly asking him how he feels. And Romeo begins to start to swear by the moon that he loves me, right? On line 111, he says, lady, by yonder blessed moon I swear, but I cut him off. Right? I say, oh, swear not by the moon, the inconstant moon that monthly changes in her circle orb, lest that thy love prove likewise variable. I'm like, don't swear by the moon, because the moon is ever changing, and I don't want your love to change. And Romeo asks, what shall I swear by? And I say, do not swear at all, right? You shouldn't need to swear if you actually do love me. And I start to get very nervous. So in this section, I am just very nervous by everything that Romeo has heard me say, right? So really I'm just rambling out of nervousness. It's like when somebody gets nervous and they just can't stop talking. Well, that is what I'm doing here. I admit it is one of my character flaws that I tend to ramble when I am caught off guard. So I continue to say that this is going too fast before Romeo can even get a word in edgewise. On line 124, I say, it is too rash, too unadvised, too sudden, too like lightning. And I say I'm going to leave. Okay, so I bid him good night. I say I am going to go inside and leave because this is all happening far too quickly. And I may have a point, right? We only just met that night at a party. It's only been an hour or two since we last met, and already here we are trying to profess our love to one another. So in this next section, Romeo is going to call Juliet back, beg her not to leave, and Juliet is going to propose a plan. Okay, it's a 3-part plan. So I want you to see if you can figure out what that plan is. So you can go ahead and pause me now and read to line 167. So before I go away, right, I was saying, good night, and sweet repose and rest come to thy heart, as that within my breast. So she's saying, good night, I bid you farewell. But before I can leave, Romeo calls me back, and he says, oh, wilt thou leave me so unsatisfied? And this seems a little bit shocking to me, so of course I come back, what satisfaction do you think you can have tonight, right? I'm like, how do you think you're getting satisfied tonight, young sir? And Romeo, of course, being the smooth talker he is, says, the exchange of thy love's faithful vow for mine, right? So there's a little bit of a hidden joke there, But he's saying, I just want you to tell me you love me, and I want to tell you that I love you as well. Now we continue to talk and the nurse calls me, right? She's calling from inside for me to come to bed. And I say, anon, good nurse, I'll be right there. And Romeo says, oh, blessed, blessed night, I am afeard being in night, all this is but a dream, right? I come back after I've gone inside to talk to the nurse, and I say, 3 words, dear Romeo. And this is on line 148. So this is where I'm giving him my 3-part plan. 3 words, dear Romeo, and good night indeed. So I'm going to say 3 things, and then I am going to finally bid you good night. Here's number 1. If that thy bent of love be honourable, thy purpose marriage, send me word tomorrow. So she's saying, if you truly do love me and you plan to marry me, send me word tomorrow. So have somebody send me word and tell me if you plan to marry me or not. The second thing, on line 151 to 152. By one that I'll procure to come to me, where and what time thou wilt perform the rite. She says, I will send someone to you tomorrow to find out where and when we are going to get married, perform the rite. The third thing she says, I say on line 153 and 54, and all my fortunes at thy foot I'll lay, and follow thee, my lord, throughout the world. She's saying, I will give everything I have to you, and I will follow you anywhere. So that is her 3-part plan, right? Let me know tomorrow if you plan to marry me. I will send a messenger to find out what time and where we will get married. And if we plan to marry, I will give you everything I have and follow you anywhere in the world. And then on line 156 I say, but if thou meanest not well, okay, so if you do not mean to marry me, skip down, I do beseech thee, skip down to 160, to cease thy suit and leave me to my grief. So she's saying, if you do not plan to marry me, I pray that you leave me alone and leave me to be sad about it by myself. And then she exits and Romeo says, love goes toward love as schoolboys from their books, but love from love towards school with heavy looks. So he is very much in love and is sad for her to leave, but he is excited. Okay, now in the last section of this scene, I am going to enter one more time, and we are just going to talk a little bit, and I'm going to ask him what time he would like the messenger sent to him tomorrow. So if you would, please pause me now and read the rest of scene 2. Okay, so in the rest of the scene, what I do is I come back onto the balcony for a final time, and I say this word, hist. And what hist is just like a psst, psst, right? It's just like you're calling somebody to you. So I call Romeo back, and I am asking him, what o'clock tomorrow, this is on line 179, what o'clock tomorrow shall I send thee? And Romeo says, by the hour of 9. So he's saying, send to me at 9 o'clock in the morning. And Juliet has a little bit of hyperbole here on line 182. I will not fail, 'tis 20 years till then, right? Even though it's only in a few hours, she says it feels like it's 20 years away. So at the end of the scene, Juliet has another very famous line. On line 198, she says, good night, parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say good night till it be morrow. Right? And Romeo comes up with a plan. So Romeo, in the last few lines of the scene, starting on line 200, gives us his next plan. He says, sleep dwell upon thine eyes, peace in thy breast. Would I were sleep and peace so sweet to rest. Hence will I to my ghostly father's cell, his help to crave, and my dear hap to tell. So he's saying he's going to his ghostly father's cell to ask for help. And in this sense, the ghostly father is the friar, whom we will meet in the next scene. So that is all we are going to do for today. If you're enjoying this guided study, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, The Bear Bodkin Bard, so that you can be updated on all future posts of all Shakespeare's greatest works. And if you would like the next video, the link is in the description below. I bid you a good day.